going to tell you something. She's a precious person. But do you remember? Hannah, do you remember? Renee? She was, I don't know if y'all were sisters or but anyway, she came before CR, and that's where I met her and all. So anyway, I'm going to turn it over. She's got a phenomenal testimony. Y'all, she is very nervous, so just let me just pray for her. Come here. Father God, I come to you right now, and I just bless your holy name. Father, I thank you so much for Renee. Lord, when I saw her just about a couple of months ago, I was like, wow. Lord, thank you. You made a promise, and here she is, Father. I ask you to bless her. Take away the fear. Lord, take away the anxiety that the enemy's trying to throw up, because that is not who you are, Lord. We just give her to you, Lord. We place her in your hands, Lord. And Holy Spirit, I just ask, speak through her, Father. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right.
Last time I was on stage, there was a pole involved, and I fell off. Stand up on stage. Needless to say, I never became a stripper either. So, I made some notes just in case, because I will forget things. And first, let me just tell God I'm just grateful to Him for everything that He's done in my life, because I've had some ups and downs and hiccups and some bumps and bruises, and it's been a long journey that almost killed me several times, and should have, but He brought me through it. For a long time, I couldn't understand what it was or why, because I should have died. I should have been the one that got killed, and whenever things happened in my life that led me to drugs and to be strung out as I was. Let me just tell you a little bit about myself. I'll start off by saying that, as you can see, I'm very nervous, and I hope I don't choke up and start squalling, because I will do that real quick. I grew up in Lawrence, Mississippi. I was born in Cleveland, but I was just born there. My mom ran off whenever she had me, and gave birth to me, and left my dad, who was an awesome dad. He was a good daddy. He was an alcoholic, but he was the most kind, loving, gentle person you could have ever met. So I hold that against him, not. Anyway, my mom went off and she had me, so I was born Kathy Renee Harrell when I should have been Renee Grantham by law. My dad ended up coming to get me, and I don't blame my mom, because she just didn't know what she wanted. She wasn't ready to settle down, and she didn't know how to settle down. So I don't hold that against her, because my daddy coming to get me and raising me was the best thing that could ever happen to me, because outside of God, He showed me what love was. He taught me that. My Aunt Shirley helped raise me with him, which was his sister, and she became the mom in my life and my hero along with him. And my ears are getting real hot, so if they're red, I'm sorry. But so she helped him raise me, which we didn't have much of nothing. We had each other. I can remember us going outside from in our house to use the bathroom with the big tree out to the right, because that's just what we had. But my dad never failed to bring me a Kit Kat and a Slim Jim every day home from work, and I thought that was the greatest thing, and a kiss on the forehead every night before I went to sleep. My granddaddy, which was my dad's dad, every night my bedtime story was the Bible. He read that to me religiously, and he told me back then, and I was probably 5 or 6, and he told me back then, he's like, do you know that your name is written in the book? So I was like, wow, cool. I'm like 5 years old. Somebody really knows me that well. That's pretty awesome. And so growing up, he knew what he was doing when he said that, because growing up, I would read the Bible still, and I'm looking for Renee, but I couldn't find it. So, but it kept me reading, and it kept me in it. And now that I've grown up, I've learned that he was a pretty smart Christian man, and I appreciate that, and I'm grateful for that and for those moments. Let's see. Oh, I'm sorry.
You're good, bud.
It's been a long road, and I know a lot of y'all that are here, and we've all been through a lot together. I've seen you go through a lot on your own, and as well as y'all seen me. We've been at our best, and we've been at our worst, so that we thought our best anyway. I think seeing everybody here like I have tonight is probably one of the greatest gifts God could have given me today. you know, and
Amen.
it's because of him, you know, that this is happening, and to see us all in the organizations and the groups that we were in at one time, you know, now I can see us in a major movement, and
That's right.
that's amazing to me. Let's see, I started out, you know, just using your average pot, drinking, smoking cigarettes, and, you know, stuff like that, just like a normal wild teenager would do, I guess. And my dad managed hotels all my life, so I had run of 8-story hotel buildings and parties every weekend, and I was the coolest of the cool, you know, and that gained a lot of friends and a lot of people, because growing up I was not a very pretty child, you know, but I was popular. And so that is what started my spiral of out of control back then. I thought that, you know, as long as I had something that kept people coming back, then people would always be there and they wouldn't leave like my mom. So I worried a lot about that, and that was the downfall of mine for many, many years. I was always afraid of somebody leaving, so no matter what it took, I would go to the extremes to make sure that you stayed. I became a meth addict, probably still in my teens, and it progressed. Meth became my drug of choice. Started out snorting, you know, or a little dab here and a little dab there, and before I knew it, I was in full-blown addiction with sticking a needle in my arm. I can remember the day that my dad died. I was so strung out that I didn't even open my door to say hi and I love you, and he never come back alive. And that's probably one of the hardest things I've had to learn to forgive myself for, because you know, I never saw him again, and I can only pray and hope that somehow, some way, that whenever I am able to, because I know he's there with God, that I can say I'm sorry. My dad remarried several times throughout my life. I think probably the Mississippi law limit, which back then I think was like 8 years. Or 8 times, excuse me, not 8 years, 8 times. 8 years would have been great. So at least that's what I have stuck in my head. So, and every one of those wives, it seemed, they always had children, you know, because I was the only child of my dad, but I only remember one stepsister that I had, the rest were boys. I can't recall, even if it was a group of them, at least one time that one out of that group didn't molest me. Every time. And that kind of progressed. It became a repeat in my life many times. Well, I got to know that I had siblings, half siblings, and for the first time I had went and stayed with my sister, my half sister in Meridian, and I was 9 years old. I got to meet one of my brothers there, and at that time he was so strung out on crack. She was drunk. They got to fighting. The law came. I can remember being that 9-year-old little girl standing there going, "Please don't take my brother to jail. He's just sick." You know, I knew something was wrong and I didn't know what, but I knew I had to save him somehow in my mind. That night he lay down in the same bed I did and molested me too, after I stood up to protect him. And I still loved him, and I still love him. You know, I have a really big forgiving heart for a lot of things that I've been through in my life, because I look at the forgiveness that God has given me. You know, I've been that junkie. I've been that whore. I've been that rock bottom girl that I couldn't pick my head up. Didn't want to. Why? I'll always be a drug addict. You know, this was my life.
Yeah.
That's what I knew.
Yeah.
It was my comfort zone from pain, you know, that I had carried with me. I ended up getting involved in organizations, gang organizations, you know, to where each and every person, and it didn't really matter, you know, you had so many different forms of it, and different people labeled things different names and stuff, but if I ever called you brother, you were my brother, and I loved you like that, you know, and just prayed that just one time that would be what that was. but many times it didn't work out that way. I was just glad that they stayed, because I just didn't want them to leave. And I loved hard, and I loved so much to the point that I put myself in many positions that if whenever one of us got busted, or if I'm around, I'm going too. If you go, I go. Or better yet, let me go for you. So my prison stint grew. I caught my first manufacturing charge in '98, right at Christmas in January of '99. I went to jail for that. And then my second one I caught, I was out on bond from the previous one, so I didn't get to bond out that time. Well, my husband at the time, he did. He bonded out, and let me just back up and say that for many months prior to all that, I would always try to sneak some change or sneak something enough to save up, just enough to save up every month for a pregnancy test, because I just knew that the one greatest thing in this world that I could become and be good at would be a mom. For many years, that was a dream of mine that I held hope for to happen. And so in this craziness and chaos that I lived in, I thought, well, what if I ever did, and here I'm in amongst all this addiction that I can't get out of. In my mind, I just thought there was never going to be a way out. So I would take the test just because if I ever come back positive, I'm gone, buddy. I'm leaving you. I'm taking the poodle, and I'm splitting. So the one time that I didn't have enough to get that done that day, I got arrested again. Well, I didn't get out this time, and it was there in that old Rankin County Jail dungeon cell, as we called it. I'm sure many of you are familiar with that term.
Yeah.
I laid on that floor sick, very sick, and they thought I was going through withdrawals. But back then, we used to say, "It's impossible. We don't go through withdrawals with this," But I was very, very sick, and this lady they had brought out in the middle of the night for public drunk. We were all asleep, but she woke us up because she was kind of loud, and I was still on the floor because there was nowhere to, no empty rack or nothing like that at that moment. So she asked me why I was so sick, and I told her I didn't know. They say I'm going through withdrawals. Well, I wasn't going through withdrawals, come to find out. But she asked me if I would trust her enough to get up on this table and lay flat and let her mash on my stomach for a while. And I was thought, this girl's got to be out of her mind. Who are you? What are you doing? We're asleep. Go to bed. But I saw this kindness in her eyes that I had never seen before. And it was, it's hard to describe, but it was not of this world to me at that moment. And for some reason I got up, I got on the table, and she did exactly what she said. Well, guess what? I was pregnant. For the first time, I was pregnant. I didn't know it yet, because the next day the jailers come in, and they had ordered a pregnancy test. The captain did, for whatever reason, but that morning that I had woke up, though, that lady was gone. And she told me that night, though, that that's what it was, and I just thought she was done lost it. She done way drank over her limit, and whenever they ordered that test and it come back positive, and all I could do is stand there, and I'm in this really big orange overall jumpsuit that was 30 times bigger than I was, because I was probably 80 pounds soaking wet at the time, and I was the happiest convict in the world. All I could do is sit there and throw, I'm going to be a mom. And as a matter of fact, Julie Frazier was with me when that happened, because I just looked at her and I just started bawling, I'm going to be a mom, Julie. Anyway, months went by, a couple people come in, you brought a cigarette butt in your mouth or a piece of crack and thought you was going to smoke it around my kid. It's not happening, I'll fight you. And I was big about that too. I'd fight in a heartbeat. Anybody. So I didn't allow that to happen. I protected my baby the best I could. And it wasn't but a few weeks probably after one of those episodes had happened, I collapsed in the middle of the night and woke up looking at the ceiling. They had to rush me to the hospital and do emergency surgery immediately. And the doctor told me that my baby had drowned in my own blood. My tube had erupted, and my baby, I lost my child. I never had any more. Never had another pregnancy again. That was a very hard thing for me because I just knew that one thing would be what took me away from that lifestyle. And I hoped for that because I couldn't get myself out of it no matter how much I desired it or thought about it or wanted to. You know, I was strung out. I was sick. And it seemed like the only thing I was really good at. So after that, I came back to the jail after several days in the hospital, and I didn't want to talk to anybody. I laid down. Well, I told God that night, I said, Lord, I said, I don't know why this has happened, and I don't know what your purpose is through this, but I got to do my time still, and I need you to get me through this, or I'm not going to make it. And so that night, whenever I went to sleep, I began to dream. And y'all, this kneecap, it was like a transparent white, and it was huge. It was huge, like this building huge, you know, and I could see through it, but I could see that that's what it was. And on his kneecap sat the most beautifulest baby boy that I had ever seen in my life. He was round-headed and blue-eyed, and he was so pretty. And he was just waving, you know, and that was God giving me that peace I needed in order to make it through that. And I knew it, so I knew I've experienced so much of what he's done and the amazing love and the just love that he's given me to get through these things. That's a major part of my testimony because I know how real that was, and I know that that was him, and I also know that the lady that came through that night for public drunk was his angel, and I believe that with all my heart, and there's nothing or nobody that could ever tell me any difference. So I did my time, and I got through that. I got to come home. I stayed clean for probably about 1.5 years, 2 years, and got right back in the cycle. Started again, and you know how they say once you start and stop, it gets worse every time, and that's true. If it's not worse, it at least continues on in that vicious cycle over and over again. It eventually, it becomes not fun anymore. It becomes chaotic, it becomes games, it becomes people hurting people, people killing people. I've seen some pretty insane moments in my life that would actually probably blow a lot of people's minds, because it still blows mine. Sometimes I can't even believe that much of it was real, but it was. And, you know, many times I question God, like, why? You know, what are you doing? Why is this happening? And how could something so bad happen? And I'm not jumping, you know, because I sure want to. But I look at it now and I think, you know, okay, you know how they had to take Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and they went into the fire, you know, and they come out not burned. You know, and they said, I don't see just 3, I see 4. Well, he's always been that one right beside me too. And I know without a doubt in my mind. And so after that stint there, I ended up catching another charge, and I'm like Benny, I probably should use 221 North Timber Street for my address as well for many years. And I think I've visited each part of it that either got rebuilt or built or changed or painted, or you know, my name's probably carved in several doors there somewhere, I'm sure. And of course, if I was to go back through there now, I'm going to make sure it's not. Anyway, I end up about, I guess it was 2011. I'm still with my husband that I had been married to for several years, you know, and I've been in and out of relationships. I wasn't a faithful wife. I wasn't, you know, it was a very abusive relationship, much abuse that many are unaware of that happened behind closed doors that damn near killed me also, excuse my language, but it's true. And a part of me hates him for that, you know, and a part of me thanks him too, because it brought me to a place in my life to where, you know, I fight for God now. You know, I don't just try to fight for my life on my own. I call on Him, and He stands up for me. So 2011, somebody that I called a brother from one of the organizations, you know, I loved dearly, and I would have probably died for him as well. War wire on me, and I ended up getting busted, and I go back to prison. Well, I did 5 years, that last runner, and in that 5 years, on the day that I got sentenced, I told Judge Enfinger that day, I said, you know, today starts my new life. This is the beginning of things changing for me. So I was probably happy. I was as happy as I was that day. I said I was the happiest convict ever because I could feel it. I knew that something was changing at that point, and that was the beginning of those changes. So I went back into booking, and I was laughing. I was cutting up. You know, I'm happy. I'm glad. Let's get it on. You know, so they put me in, and I go do my time. And during that 5 years, I didn't get high. You can get just about anything you want in prison, you know, most of the time. It don't matter. It might cost you a bit, but you can get it. And I chose not to because I said, all right, God, I'm going to let you use this time to start refining me, to make me into the woman that you know I could always been, but I forgot was there. And He did that. He did that. So I come home, and after 5 years, I'd done a year and a half over my time because they had taken the sales charge, people's parole dates for a glitch in their paperwork stuff until somebody fought them and won it back. And then I got to come home. When I came home, I did really good. I've done good for 2 years, right at, and then I ended up getting into a relationship. I got married. Things got crazy. We both ended up back into using, and so I spiraled back down again. I'm about ready to give up. You know, I'm like, okay, this is not happening. I've worked too hard to get to where I'm at. I can't do this. So I split across the state line. Stupid mistake. But at the time, I had some passengers with me. There was one that I would do anything in the world to protect as well, and there was another one that I had just met. I had met a girl that had a baby. She was in a bad place. I brought her into my home. Didn't know anything about her. You know, I told her, okay, let's change your life. Let's do something different, and tried to help her. Well, you know, it all ended up bringing me back down to where I ended up ODing that day in Alabama, and I died. They rushed me to the hospital. I didn't know I died, but I did. And when I came to, you know, I can remember looking at the nurse, and I was like, you know, okay, I'm really mad right now because I was really sleeping really good, you know, and why can't I just go back to that sleep state? And she's like, we've been trying to revive you for days, you know, to get you to wake up. And I was like, what do you mean? And she said, ma'am, you died. You know, we've never seen anything come through here in that shape before, and the amount that I had consumed, there's no earthly explanation why I'm sitting right here right now. None at all. God did that.
That's
He
right.
said, I'm not done with you yet.
That's right.
And so, you know, I had to ponder on that for a minute. And so when I come back home, I said, okay, you know, this is very phenomenal, all this that's happening in my life. And I said, you know, I tell you what, Lord, I'm fixing to reach for the stars. I'm fixing to take every day on one of them. And I'm going to do what it is that you need me to do. And He placed things in my life that not only helped me to not pick up again, but it helped me to get stronger within myself as well. And I quit cold turkey. And I haven't done any since.
All right. Yeah.
So since then, and now God has made me the proud owner of a new business in Byram. It's called Sunkissed Tanning and Boutique. Something I never thought would happen. You know, you're talking to a girl that used to ride a passenger seat or drive. It didn't matter. But your window was open and I could see within your household and see your dining room table and your family sitting down to eat, if I was lucky enough to catch you at those moments, were the most awesome moments in the world to me, because that gave me hope that there was still real life out there somewhere, somehow. And they may not have had the perfect life within those walls, but at that moment it looked perfect to me. So
That's
I
right.
knew that it was still obtainable. It was there. It was, whether it's just some big dream or not, I wanted it to happen. And I just had to find that in myself to realize that, I can do it. But I couldn't do it without God. I had to call on His power in order for me to quit cold turkey. I did not do it at all on my own. He did that. And, people tell you today, you'll hear people say, well, they took the taste. He took the taste from me. I used to be like, this guy's crazy. I hear that all the time. And, okay, well, I've asked him 1,000,000 times, so what's the deal? Well, no, it's real. He did that. But yeah, I had to completely, wholeheartedly, totally surrender. And so
That's
I
right.
did that.
That's
I
right.
did that, and I did that laying in His arms, picking me up off the floor, because I had to hit my knees to do that, surrendering. And I had to tell Him, Lord, either you help me or I'm coming to you. So His job is got to be pretty spectacular in order to keep the misfit like me still around.
That's right.
So I'm clean today, and I'm proud of that, and I owe Him all the glory, because my story is His glory. It's all about Him, and I find the most joy in my life now when I talk about Him, when I share about Him. Because I can remember days even when I was in my using states, I would have my Bible open, because I still knew that hope existed. I knew it was there all along. I grew up with it. Why wouldn't I know that power was possible? And I just held on for dear life throughout the years, even if I didn't realize it. That's exactly what I was doing. And He proved me right. And I'm grateful that He proved me right, I just hope that I can continue this walk with Him and for Him. And, I have made this dream, like I said earlier in the beginning, of this major movement, to see all of us okay and making something happen and helping the next person. And, even in my worst nightmare, you hear a lot of people say that, they're just throwing things out there sometimes like, oh, I'm so mad at him, I'll kill him, or this or that. Well, let me just tell you that it doesn't just happen in the movies, it's real.
Yeah.
And somebody that I loved, dearly loved, I had to witness him lose his life in front of me. And I had to go. I went through a lot of real life nightmare that night, and I couldn't do anything to save him. And if I could have, I would. But God was there then too when I called on Him and asked Him to help me through it. And I'm just grateful to be alive. I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful to share with y'all. I'm grateful that I didn't fall off stage. Thank God I didn't stand up. And the many of you that I do know that we've been through a lot, all I can tell you guys is I love you so much.
Love you, baby.
And I'm so proud of y'all. And we're going to make it.
That's right.
We're going to make it.
That's right. Woohoo! Yeah.